Nice.
I call to order the Town Council regular session at 7:35, and the date is Monday, December 10th. We could please all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Could we please have the roll call, Dale? Here.
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 Thank you, Dale. We have the approval of the minutes of previous meetings. We have the work session from November 26, 2012.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. We also have the regular session for November 22nd, 2012.
November 26th.
Sorry.
I move approval of those minutes.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Would any counselor like anything removed from the consent agenda?
I move approval of the consent agenda. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Which brings us to, I believe, comments from interested citizens, page 3. At this, Finn?
Evening. I just wanted to take the opportunity to make note of a meeting that will be held 1 week from tomorrow evening here in the council chambers. There will be a presentation by the University of Rhode Island Landscape Architecture class. They've been looking at, in cooperation with the town, the Dale Carlia vicinity and the Commercial Highway Zoning District. They're calling their presentation Dale Carlia Corners, A Vision for a Greener Future. And they're going to present some, creative looks at that area with an eye towards improving its functionality and aesthetics. It's obviously an important part of the town from the point of view of employment and tax and service provision. But so we found these student projects in the past to be really interesting and thought-provoking. And next, on the 18th at 6:30 p.m., they're going to be here. We've done in cooperation with the school, an email blast and a targeted mailing, and so we're just trying to get the word out. So it should prove interesting. So
Okay, so December 18th here in the town chambers?
yes, ma'am.
At 6:30.
6:30 p.m. So
Great,
thanks.
thank you. Okay, comments from interested citizens. If anyone here would like to bring an item of interest to the podium, this is your chance to speak.
Hello.
Jim?
Steve, could I ask you, I've been meaning to bring this up last month. Route 1, obviously, the state did the repairs and the striping on it, but if you're heading south, you pass the Wakefield exit, then you pass the first Narragansett exit. But between that Narragansett exit, then the next one, which I think is Block Island and wherever or not, they have they've widened those lanes, so we're down to a couple of feet in the breakdown lane. And when people go to the beach in the summer, they are backed up for a mile there. And now they're going to be, half the automobiles are going to be in the travel lane. I don't know if anyone has witnessed this, but the striping, something went terribly wrong there. I don't know, I think they need our review of it, but it is absolutely going to be a danger when summer comes. It's a danger now to drive.
The only thing I can say is that what we can do is to put that on the Transportation Committee's agenda and have them discuss the issue with DOT as to the changes that were made there. I agree with you. I've seen the changes that have been made. I'm not
It's
sure
so dangerous.
what process that has gone through.
Yeah, it's incredibly dangerous because they've taken it away from the barrier in the middle, and they've widened those lanes, but they've just cut off the breakdown lane totally.
I'm not aware that the town reviewed any of those restriping plans, Chief?
Well, I just wanted to simply bring it up to DOT. It just looks as some
No, what
terrible
I'll do
mistake
is
was
I'll-
made.
I'll have the chief get in touch with DOT and find out where those plans came from, and to bring somebody into that meeting to discuss whether or not remediation of the striping is necessary.
Okay, great, thank you.
Thank you, Jim. I just want to recognize a few dates. Carol and I attended the Museum of Primitive Arts and Culture, their holiday celebration, and I just wanted the town council to know that they were kind enough to give us one of their publications. So I'll be passing this on to other town council members to take a peek at. Has a lot of the artifacts. We also have a meeting December 17th with the legislators. And December 13th, we will be visiting the senior center for their holiday celebration. And December 14th, we'll have our tour, the town council tour of the town. Also, another date of importance is December 20th. We have our joint work session with the town council and the school committee. And thank you, Vin, for mentioning the URI landscape architect on Dale Colley Corner on December 18th.
Pardon me, Ella, what was that date for the senior?
That is December 13th,
Is
this
that-
Thursday.
Oh, it's Thursday. I
This
put the wrong
Thursday.
date down for the tour.
Starts
That's
at
why.
10:30, and then I believe the luncheon starts at 12.
Okay.
It's usually a wonderful event. Okay, seeing no other comments from interested citizens, I'm going to move to the town manager's report.
One item that we did not cover in the pre-session, and that was the memorandum from the planning director on the comprehensive plan update and the transmittal of the completed draft of the update. As outlined in Vin's memorandum, what planning board is suggesting is that the council consider, most likely in either late January or in February, scheduling a work session for the planning board and planning staff to be able to present to the council pertinent information relative to the plan update. And once the council's comfortable with the process that they've gone through and the recommendations, understand the recommendations that they're making, to look at scheduling a public hearing for consideration of adoption of the update as presented. So what I'd like to do is to have council be aware that we would need to look at calendars probably at the first meeting in January to look to sometime in February for scheduling that first work session with the planning board. There may be a need for more than one if there's questions after the initial presentation. Vin has also drafted a memorandum that provides really an explanation as to the different elements that have been updated and the reasons for those updates. In dealing with the comp plan, the other thing that needs to be must be also realized is that it also has to be approved through the statewide planning. We have submitted these documents back and forth with the state. We believe that everything is in a position now for the council's final review. Certainly, there's adjustments that can be made based on the input from the council as we go forward, but we are going to need to get that process started sometime early in 2013. So I'd ask you to be ready at the next meeting for us to be able to try to come up with some potential dates that we can work with the planning board. I'll have Vin give us some suggested dates from the planning board so that we'll be reacting to dates they've got available in February if possible.
Steve, the only question that I have is, do you want us to wait until that first meeting date to address any questions that we have? Or do you want us to?
I think it can be handled either way. I think that probably the more productive way at this point would be to let them make the presentation, bring up the issues and concerns at that meeting, and make sure that people are being able to understand what each group is concerned with. Because I think there's going to be a lot of dialogue. There's a lot of good information that's in there. There's a lot of demographics information. It's really the first real address at a URI element, which is not a required element, but one that we felt was appropriate and the planning board wanted to have included in the overall comprehensive plan. If there's sections that the council wants to see changed or fortified, it can be done. But if you give an initial reading on the overall document, at least we will have a good starting point to begin that process. We need to try to fit this in between the capital budget in January and the operating budget in March. If we don't get it finished in February, we'll have to carry it over into April. I'm not overly concerned with the time frame that's here. I think that the planning board would like to see it done sooner rather than later. But this has also been a very long process that they've been dealing with the consultant now for probably almost 2 years. So I think that there's a lot of good stuff there for the council and planning board to be able to discuss. There may be revisions necessary, but we need to start it in February and hopefully figure that we'll be able to complete it in April or early May, so that we don't get ourselves into the middle of the summer.
Okay, the only, I'm sorry, Jim, I'll defer. Let me just finish my question, then while Carol and I were at that Primitive Art Museum of Art, they did ask if they were part of the comprehensive plan. So, and I did, I've started the reading of it, I haven't, so I didn't know if that's something that you could look into. I didn't see it as a resource, and I don't know if they have been a piece of that in the past.
Maybe a resource that's identified in the cultural element of the plan, but I'll
So I'm just going
discuss
to
that
pass
with
that.
Vin.
Thank you. Jim?
Steve, is there any move to lengthen the period of this when each new comp plan has to be forwarded to the state planning? Can it move to 7 years, 10 years? Has there been any movement on that?
I don't think there's been any movement, Vin?
There was legislation adopted last year that allows either for a 10-year approval. We would love that if that was forthcoming, because it seems like 5 years comes screaming up rather quickly. But there was some additional criteria that the state would be looking for to afford the 10-year approval. So we think we're pretty close to what they might require, and then we may be able to, through a minor amendment process, if we don't achieve the 10, be able to get there. That would be great, actually.
It just seems like when we finish, we start right up again, and there's no break. It takes, I know, it takes an incredible amount of time.
Yeah, you're absolutely right. I think the 10-year makes more sense, especially if it could be kind of timed towards the census, data availability especially, so.
That and the limited resources that the state has at this point to be able to do the reviews
That too.
on the elements as well. I mean, when going way back with the comp plans, it was what they had envisioned was that a comp plan would be adopted and then an element would be updated on a yearly basis. But it just, that doesn't fit into the overall scheme of things when the municipality's trying to deal with it, because you really have to look holistically at all of the elements simultaneously to make sure that they fit. You really can't do one and then 4 years later assume that everything's going to fit within it. So while I think it was a good thought, I just don't think you can have a plan that's supposed to be comprehensive that has elements that are just updated over a 10-year period, one a year. But the 10 years will give us a better time frame, but it also means that the work effort's going to be more difficult because it hasn't been revisited in some cases for an 8 to a 10-year period. So I think it behooves us to keep that up to date because we need it as far as being able to control zoning and land use.
Thanks.
I don't have anything else for the manager's report other than the items that are under new business that we'll go through item by item. So with that, if council has any questions, I'd be glad to answer them.
Everybody else set? Okay, thank you, Steve. Town Solicitor's report, please.
Nothing new to report this evening, but if you do have questions, I'm more than happy to answer them.
Any questions for Mike? All right, which brings us to appointments, and I believe we have 2.
We have 2 reappointments to the Historic District Commission. I move that we appoint Rosalind Gaines to another 3-year term. Her term expired this December 2012, and she will be reappointed to December 2015.
Second?
We We have a motion and a second. All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you.
Also, I move that we reappoint James Garfield. His term expired on December 2012, and he also would be reappointed for 3 years until December 2015 on the Historic District Commission.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Thank you, Carol. Next item on the agenda is new business. This is a resolution amending and affirming the town's liquor license rules and regulations, Section 1. The number of licenses for each class shall be authorized as indicated. And I believe the only change here is the Class B Limited going from 5 to 4.
Yeah, the item before you is based on the letter that the council accepted under the consent agenda from Mr. Kay indicating that he was surrendering, relinquishing his license, the Class B Limited license for Woodhouse Fire and Cold Pizza. So with that, we would reduce the number from the 5 to 4 in terms of the maximum. This resolution also would be the first action of this council in terms of affirming the maximum number of licenses for each of the various classes of licenses. In January, we'll be looking to add an additional license class, which would be the License T. That could be added in January. We expect to see the first license for legitimate theater liquor license being applied for probably before the next council meeting. And we would have to add that as a class and then set a maximum for it. I would suggest that you not set the maximum unless you're looking at holding the hearing to determine whether or not any change in the number of licenses is required using the public hearing process that is outlined in the existing council's rules. So with that, I'd ask the council to consider to adopt this resolution as presented this evening.
Thank you. Can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of new business item A.
Second.
We have motion and a second. Any discussion? Ready to vote? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed, abstention, motion carries. Thank you. And new business item B is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to International Salt, 655 Northern Boulevard, Clark Summit, Pennsylvania, for road salt at the unit price of $58.30 per ton, delivered and as further described in memorandum from the Public Service Director to the Town Manager dated November 27, 2012, and entitled Bid Recommendation for Winter Road Salt.
Master price agreement with the state, the increase is $2 per ton. As noted in the memorandum, we spend in the area of $100,000 a year on salt acquisitions. Any salt that's not used by the end of the season stays within the salt shed and isn't lost to the weather. We also will restock that salt shed at the end of the year, should dollars be available within the snow removal budget.
Okay.
I move approval of new business item B.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business item C is a resolution authorizing an award of contract to PAR Corporation, 8 Blackstone Valley Place, Lincoln, Rhode Island, for portable water transmission system consulting, engineering, study, and design services in an amount not to exceed $119,945, including a contingency of $20,000, and is further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager dated November 28, 2012, and entitled East Matunic Beach Water Main Bypass Engineering Services.
As noted in John Shark's memorandum on this subject, 3 qualified bidders submitted proposals to the town. Pear Corporation was the lowest qualified bidder. I would note that on page 2 of the summary provided by John, you see the detail as to the different components of this contract. The initial contract is for the design. Approximately $55,085 will be necessary for the borings, design and permits, as well as looking at alternate routes that could be employed in the development of this waterline loop. The other components will only come into play when an actual construction project is put into place, which would be the construction management as well as resident inspection. The proposals, the scope of work that was developed by the engineering department wants to capture what those costs will be now, were that work to be authorized at a future time. We're asking for a council approval for what the total cost would be associated with the engineering fees at this point. But initially, we will be looking at authorizing only the total design component as an initial contract with council authorization.
Thank you. Can we have a motion, please?
I make a motion to approve item C on the new business agenda.
Second.
Motion and second. Any discussion or questions?
Yeah, I have a question. Steve, so the design is $55,000, but we're adding the $20,000 contingency, but the whole project?
That's correct. What you're authorizing tonight is a total of $99,945 plus the $20,000.
Okay, so I thought what you just said a minute ago was the design is the part that we're only going to do.
The only
to
thing
begin.
I'm going to authorize initially will be for the design itself. We would have a second contract that we would go with them, but this would lock in what the prices would be on a
Okay.
per-day basis.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks. We have a motion and a second. Any further discussion or questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business item D is a resolution authorizing the renewal of annual software support fees for Information Management Corporation, 13 Centennial Drive, North Grafton, Massachusetts, in an amount not to exceed $17,780, and is further described in a memorandum from the police chief to the town manager dated December 4th, 2012, and entitled IMC Computer Annual Support Fees Recommendation for Renewal.
As noted in Chief Vespia's memorandum, Information Management Corp., or IMC, which is owned out of Tritech Software, provides the software that's used in the dispatch centers in 38 police departments, fire departments, EMS services throughout the state. The service of that software or maintenance of it is required to be put forward on a yearly basis for council consideration. For the calendar 2013 year, there'll be a $325 increase, or 1.9% over what the current year prices are. We're looking at a not to exceed of $17,780 for those services that are outlined in the chief's memorandum. Recommend approval as presented.
Can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of new business item D.
Second.
We have motion and second. Any questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business item F is a resolution authorizing the amendment of an award of bid originally granted on August 27th, 2012 to Seaside Painting LLC, 92 West Main Road, Middletown, Rhode Island, for exterior painting at the Kingston Free Library from an amount not to exceed $88,381 to an amount not to exceed $97,645 to provide for additional contingency funds, and as further described in a memorandum from the library director to the town manager dated November 29th, 2012, and entitled Exterior Painting Kingston Free Library Request for Supplemental Contingency Funds, and from the town manager to the town council dated December 4th, 2012, and entitled Kingston Free Library Exterior Painting Contract Amendment.
The town council on August 27th issued a contract to Seaside Painting LLC for the exterior painting at the Kingston Free Library. The bid consisted of both the cleaning, repairing, and painting of the clapboards, staining of the cedar shingles and the mansard roof and belfry, and replacing rotted wood. On this type of a bid, what we would have is a unit price for those improvements that would be necessary that wouldn't be visible until the construction actually started. The contract was let for $88,381, which included a base contract of $73,651 and contingency for the remainder, or about $14,700. So the overall contract was in at $88,381. $81. When we got approximately three-quarters of the way through, we found extensive rotting within the roof and the belfry area that had a requirement for posts to be replaced. We reviewed those improvements, and it exceeded by $9,263 what the authorization was at $88,000. I brought that information to the council in November. Council provided me with authorization to issue emergency approval for that work to be completed. If we had not done that, we would have had additional mobilization requirements and the project would have been delayed. So the work was authorized. Now, at this point, it would be necessary for the council to amend the original award by increasing it by the $9,263.40 for the total cost of the project. I'd also like to say that we have been genuinely impressed with the work that was completed on the building. It was an excellent job, and I think that the library will see a good 10 years before we need to look at painting improvements. We'll also look at a much longer period of time in terms of the structural reconstruction requirements that were addressed by this contractor. I would recommend the council authorize the resolution as presented on the agenda tonight.
Thank you, Steve.
I move approval of new business item F.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Next on the agenda is a resolution adopting a proclamation in honor of Bernard H. Poppy for 51 years of service, serving on the Assessment Board of Review. Quite an honor. So it is as follows. Bernard, known as Bernie Poppy. Whereas Bernie Poppy was appointed to the South Kingstown Assessment Board of Review in 1961 and has served on the Assessment Board of Review for the past 51 years. Whereas Bernie has served on the Assessment Board of Review longer than any other known board or commission member reflected in the town clerk's historic records. And whereas during his tenure on the Assessment Board of Review, Bernie witnessed the town triple in population, growing from 11,942 residents to 30,639 residents. And whereas since his time of appointment, Bernie has generously donated his time and provided the town with his knowledge and expertise of the building trade that helped to ensure fair and equitable assessments throughout the town. And whereas Bernie's knowledge, historic knowledge of the town, which will not be able to be replaced, has been a valuable asset to the board. Whereas Bernie is respected by all who know him for his intelligence, his integrity, his gentle nature, and his uncommon ability to get along with everyone he encounters. Whereas the town will always be indebted to Bernie for the community service he has provided the town over the past 51 years, and which will never be duplicated. And whereas Bernie, true to his nature, has offered the town his willingness, if circumstances require, to be reappointed to the board. Now, therefore, we, the Town Council of the Town of South Kingstown, do hereby extend our sincere appreciation to Bernie, who is not able to be with us tonight, for his dedication, expertise, and service to the community, and wish him well in his endeavors. Hopefully, at some point, he can peruse this on his computer or the television. But what an honor, and we're very appreciative here at the town for his dedication, service. So can we have a motion, please?
I move approval of the resolution for Bernard Poppy.
Second.
Motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. We wish you all the happiness in the world as he starts his new endeavors.
Is he the longest reigning board member in town?
Yes, he is.
I would say.
Town history.
Well, that's historic.
How about Foster Sheldon? How long was he with the community?
Well, he wasn't a board member, he was
That's true.
Yeah, he was 50 years as clerk, but some of those years were part-time.
Wow.
Wow. Bernie's number one there.
I'm trying to make sure
amazing.
that Dale breaks Foster's record.
Oh, gee.
Which brings us to new business item H. This is a resolution authorizing the town clerk to advertise for order of notice a public hearing concerning a pre-agreement request to the Rhode Island Office of Housing and Community Development on behalf of the Domestic Violence Resource Center of South County. Said request is for a total of $120,000 in CDBG funding for program year 2013 to assist with the conversion of their safe house facility to permanent supportive housing, and is further described in a memorandum from the senior planner to the town manager dated December 5th, 2012, and entitled Pre-Agreement Request for our Community Design Block Grant Funding.
This item, you have a memorandum from Doug McLean, the senior planner, and Vin's here to address the issue. Mary Road is also here from the Domestic Violence Resource Center. I think the key here tonight is that the only thing that's being asked of the council is authorization to schedule a public hearing. The public hearing would be scheduled for January, at which time the need and demand for the request for this would be presented through the organization as well as through staff. But the only thing that's being asked tonight is to get the agenda, on this agenda, is to get authorization to be able to proceed to have the clerk advertise the public hearing, because that's going to be required under the state requirements. Vin?
Yes, yeah, the pre-agreement process is really something that happens between the normal cycles for application for the Community Development Block Grant Program. It's basically in place to allow for a need or a project that becomes ready in betwixt and between. So this particular project has been before the planning board and had received all the local approvals necessary. And part of the reason, as noted in Doug's memorandum to the town manager, Doug McLean's memo, is these types of projects typically involve multiple layers or programs to fund them, and the pre-agreement that they're seeking represents about 20% of the budget that they're seeking. They're also planning to file, I believe, by this Friday, an application to Rhode Island Housing, who administers the home program, which is another HUD program, that, and those are due by the 14th. So they're, this is a type of a project that, has been, as I mentioned before the town and received the local approvals. There was some funding sought under the normal cycle. It was not granted due to some, I guess, confusion about the nature of the project, or kind of a who's on first in terms of funding. But the total budget they're looking at is about $580,000. As the manager mentioned in the pre-session, for 4 units of permanent supportive housing that would be created would be units that would count towards the town's inventory of affordable housing. And there's also a proposal to try to project-base Section 8 vouchers to assist with the cost of the rental of for those 4 units in cooperation with the Housing Authority, and they have that request under consideration. They're consulting with their HUD representatives in that regard. But as Steve mentioned, tonight's is really just to get the authorization for the clerk to schedule and place the advertisement for the public hearing. And so it's kind of a lot of different pieces moving together at the same time. But the project, we do believe is a very worthy one for the town to consider. So, and
Thank you, Vin.
Ms. Rhoda and also Jeff Marchant, who are representing the Domestic Violence Resource Center, are here, I guess, to answer questions or
Thanks.
comment.
I didn't know if Mary or Jeff wanted to add anything to Vin's wonderful presentation.
Hi, everyone. Vin did an excellent job. I was
If any of the new council members had any question about the organization, I thought I could answer them, but otherwise I know you're familiar with our work. We are the only agency in Washington County designated to deal specifically with the issue of domestic violence, and the need for permanent supportive housing for our clients is unprecedented. We know that women who are secure in housing and still have a connection with our support systems are much more likely to remain independent from violence in their future lives. So we really look forward to your approval. Do you have any questions?
I know the agency well.
Thank you.
Mary, the only question that I had was, you know that this town council fully supports all the work, and we thank you for all of the work that you and your board have done. It's
Thank you.
just unbelievable.
Thank you.
So in order to replace the existing safe house facility, is there no longer a need for the existing safe house facility, or is it the lesser of the two evils that we need this more than the other?
The needs have changed, and when 1980 we started that Safe Home program, and women came to us for a much shorter stay. And now, with affordable housing being such an issue, in the past, historically, it was 1 month to 2 month stays, and now it's 6 months and longer before people can move on to some sort of affordable housing. So the needs have changed.
Right. Thank you.
I also have just one quick question, because I was reading over this proposal, and I do think what you're doing is wonderful. I actually do. With this becoming affordable housing, will you still provide safe housing facilities?
Part of the plan is the proposal is a 4-bedroom, 4 independent apartment units with a 5th unit remaining a 2-bedroom, fully equipped safe home. So we will have that available, and hopefully will be a feeder into the permanent supportive housing program.
Carol?
Mary, how long would you anticipate someone staying in the affordable housing units? Would it be indefinite, as long as they wanted to?
By nature of the definition, it is as long as they need to be there.
But initially, they would have to be clients of yours to get into those 4 units?
Yes, to make sure that they are on the path to stay independent and to have a case plan and case management with our staff. Absolutely.
Well, it seems like a great idea. I mean, it's a win-win for the town and for the organization. And we also don't lose, from what I'm reading in the memo, that it won't affect the upper limit that the town can apply for in its annual
Correct.
CDBG application. So this is above and beyond that. And
This is.
it also helps us with the affordable housing, and it serves a great cause. So I think it's wonderful.
You understand it. Thank
A
you.
win-win.
Thank you.
We don't get many of those.
Okay, so all we need is a pre-approval for $120,000. No pressure. Anything else?
Can we have a motion, please, and then we'll give you the well wishes.
I
New business
I
item
would
H.
move passage of Resolution H.
Second?
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
And we wish you the best of luck, and we're
Thank you
going to
very
keep our
much.
fingers crossed. Thank you.
Mary.
Thank you.
New business item I is a resolution rejecting all bids received on Friday, November 2nd, 2012, and relative to municipal road striping service using waterborne paint and epoxy, and is further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the town manager dated December 3rd, 2012, and entitled Bid Recommendation, Regional Road Striping Program.
The initial bids were opened right after the Superstorm Sandy had hit us. We only received one bid. The bid was not in keeping with the prices that we expected. We're requesting that the council reject the bids. The next item on the agenda, which I'll speak to as well at this point, is an authorization to award a bid, which is the same bid specs that we used, where we received 3 different proposals. Those proposals were to address the striping needs for 5 municipalities, which includes South Kingstown, North Kingstown, Westerly, Charleston, and Narragansett, as well as the University of Rhode Island. So we go out every 2 years for bids for the road striping. South Kingstown spends about $20,000 a year toward this program. There's 2 types of striping that was bid. One is for epoxy-based paint, and one is for water-based paint. Water-based paint would go mostly on stone seal roads. The epoxy would go where there was very heavily traveled roads or at intersections where the existing stripe has not lasted. We certainly try to keep away from the epoxy just based on its cost at almost double the cost of the water-based. I'd request the council consider rejection of the bids under item I and approval of a water bid under item J.
Thank you, and if we can have a motion to box I and J together, that would be great.
So moved.
Second.
Motion and second. Any further questions? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, item K is for Santa Buckley Energy, Bridgeport, Connecticut, for the purchase of unleaded gasoline, ultra-low sulfur diesel fuel from January 1st, 2013 to December 31st, 2013, to further extend for up to 2 one-year term extensions at the Daily Journal of Commerce price, Port of Providence, plus increment of 3.63 cents per gallon. And for unleaded gasoline in the discount of 1.04 cents per gallon for ultra-low sulfur diesel to include any applicable taxes in accordance with specifications as described, subject to award by the City of Warwick on December 10th, 2012, as further described in a memorandum from the Financial Controller to the Town Manager dated December 5th and entitled Statewide Municipal Gasoline and Diesel Fuel Award of Contract.
The town purchases approximately 92,000 gallons of gasoline and 41,000 gallons of diesel fuel in the course of the year. In that purchasing during the current year would be, if we had purchased all of those units, would have been about $448,000 in cost. The increase that's being supported through this Municipal Purchasing Association second year would be approximately less than 1%, or about $4,100 over what the prices were. Again, the only thing that the council is agreeing to here is to ride the bid under the master price agreement. But the master price agreement is not establishing what the cost is for the fuel. It's establishing what the cost is for the transportation of the fuel. The cost of the fuel is based on what the Journal of Commerce pricing is, based on the tank car price on the day that we're acquiring the material. What the bid is providing is what is the cost in addition to that Journal of Commerce price plus taxes that the town will incur. Sometimes they will provide an incentive, which is a decrease in below the price of the Journal of Commerce, or an increase. In this case, it's flipped, where the gas last year had a incentive, had a discount. It now has an increase, and vice versa with the diesel. But overall, if the total units that were purchased based on what's budgeted, it would be about a $4,100 increase, or less than 1% in the fuel pricing and transportation costs. Recommend that it be approved as presented with Mr. Xavier's memorandum.
Thank you, Steve.
I see no questions. I move approval of new business item K.
Second?
Motion and second, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. New business, item L is a resolution authorizing an award of bid to Paul Massey Chevrolet, 1111 Taunton Avenue, East Providence, Rhode Island, for 2 2013 Chevrolet Equinox all-wheel drive SUVs in an amount not to exceed $46,364, including trade allowance, and as further described in a memorandum from the Public Services Director to the Town Manager, dated December 5th, 2012, and entitled Bid Recommendation, Sport Utility Vehicles. Steve.
The town is in the market to replace two vehicles, a 1998 Jeep SUV and a 1997 Chevy S10 four-wheel drive. Each of those units have been a part of the capital budget. The solicitation this time, we downsized the size of the vehicles for the replacement to a smaller SUV in an effort to be able to reduce what our operational costs would be. We received 8 different submittals of proposals for the replacement of the units. The lowest submitted price was through Central Jeep out of New Bedford, Mass. They had proposed a 2013 Jeep Patriots at a total cost net of trade-in of $35,628. The low numerical bidder, which was Central, submitted with substantive exceptions being taken to the specifications, including the size of the gas tank, vehicle dimensions, tire sizes, heavy-duty alternator, those type of things. These are important components of the vehicle since they are used extensively in dealing with road construction or in terms of road emergencies or snow removal activities. We did not believe that those vehicles met the minimum standards that would be necessary for the department. There was also Ford Escapes that were submitted where the engine size were substantially below at 1.6 liters, 4 cylinders, below the 2.5 that had been presented in the spec. The director is requesting that those vehicles also be rejected as qualified bids, and that the sole bid that meets or most closely the specifications identified would be with Paul Massey, and the Massey bid would be for the purchase of two 2013 Ford Equinox all-wheel drives with a 2.4 liter over 4-cylinder vehicles. I'd recommend the council approve the bid award as presented in Mr. Schock's memorandum.
Thank you, Steve. Somebody like to make a motion?
I move approval of new business item L.
Second?
Motion and second. Any further discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries. Which brings us to our closed executive session pursuant to Rhode Island General Law 42-46-5A2 to discuss matters pertaining to collective bargaining relative to the American Federation of State, County, and Municipal Employees, Council 94, Local 1612, and International Association of Firefighters, Local 3365 labor contracts. Could we have a motion, please?
I move that we go into executive session. Is that what you
Do
want?
we have a second?
Second.
Could we have a roll call, please, Dale? Yes.
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 Thank you. 8:22.